The apartment was silent, too silent. When officers stepped inside, they expected chaos, but what they found instead was something far worse. A young woman, lifeless. A room hiding secrets. And a single clue. A bloody fingerprint that would unravel a nightmare no one saw coming.
I am really sorry that I didn't send you anything yesterday. And I hope you slept good and that we can talk soon.
The city of Murfreesboro, Tennessee is known for its energy, students, nightlife, and constant movement. But on the morning of August 7th, 2015, that energy was replaced by something chilling, something that would leave an entire community shaken. Heather Nicole Maples had only recently started building her life there. She had plans, ambition, and a future waiting just ahead of her. But none of that mattered anymore when her best friend, Kelsey, stood at the entrance of her apartment, calling her name and getting no response. Kelsey had been asked to check on Heather that morning. It wasn't unusual. Heather had a habit of oversleeping, especially after nights out. But something felt off. The door was unlocked. She stepped inside. At first, nothing seemed immediately alarming. Just a messy apartment, typical for someone living alone. But then she saw her. Heather was lying face down on a mattress in the living room, her legs slightly hanging off the side. Still, silent. Kelsey called out to her. No answer. She walked closer, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Heather was wearing a top, but nothing else. For a split second, Kelsey assumed it had been a wild night. Maybe she had come home late and passed out. Then she reached down and touched her foot. It was cold. Not just cold. Lifeless. Panic hit instantly. Kelsey ran outside and dialed 911, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what she had just found. Within minutes, police and emergency responders flooded the scene. But by then, it was already too late. Heather Maples was dead. As investigators began processing the apartment, the initial signs pointed toward violence. There were visible injuries, blunt force trauma to her head and marks around her neck suggesting strangulation. There were also strong indications that she had been sexually assaulted. The apartment itself was in disarray. At first glance, it looked like a forced entry, furniture out of place, items scattered everywhere. But that theory quickly became uncertain when Kelsey explained something important. Heather wasn't known for being tidy. Still, this mess felt different. Detective Tommy Massey arrived at the scene and immediately began examining the room. But one detail stopped him cold. On the bed was a clear, bloody fingerprint. It was smeared but distinct enough to be useful. To Massey, this was gold. A direct link to whoever had committed this crime. He believed this case might be solved quickly. That assumption wouldn't last long. As forensic teams collected evidence, detectives began building a timeline of Heather's final hours. The night before August 6th, she had gone out to a bar called Gentleman Jim's. It was a place she frequented, a place where she felt comfortable. But that night, something had gone wrong. Investigators learned that Heather had been texting multiple people throughout the evening. Friends, acquaintances, men she had recently met, 7 different individuals, all connected to her final hours. One of the first people detectives focused on was her ex-boyfriend, Chaz. Their relationship had ended just months earlier, but according to Kelsey, Chaz hadn't fully let go. He was jealous, controlling. Even after Heather filed an order of protection, he remained emotionally attached. And then came a critical detail. Chaz had left town, but returned the exact night Heather was murdered. To detectives, it seemed almost too perfect. They brought him in for questioning. During the interrogation, Chaz admitted he still loved Heather. He claimed he was only trying to protect her, worried about the people she surrounded herself with, but he denied any involvement in her death. He provided fingerprints, DNA. Neither matched the bloody print. Chaz was not their killer. Then something unexpected happened. As investigators were wrapping up at the apartment, a man casually walked up, lifted the crime scene tape, and unlocked the door with a key. Every officer froze. The man's name was Michael. Within seconds, he was detained. To detectives, this was highly suspicious. Why would someone return to a murder scene unless they had something to hide? Michael explained that he had met Heather at the bar the night before. She had left her apartment key with him, and he had simply come to return it. But more importantly, he was the last person known to have seen her alive. He was immediately taken in for interrogation. Michael told detectives that Heather had called him around 11:40 p.m., asking him to come to the bar because some men were bothering her. He agreed. They spent time together, got food, and eventually, he drove her home around 2:30 a.m. He insisted nothing happened between them. No intimacy, no conflict.
How do you know Heather?
I met her at the bar.
This is going to be rude, but I got to ask it because that sometimes details are important, sometimes they're not. The first night you met her, did you have sex with her?
I did not. I've never had any contact other than a hug. I've never even kissed her.
So you never had sex with her?
That's ever. Okay.
But surveillance footage from the bar told a slightly different story. The two appeared closer than Michael had described. Still, when his fingerprints were tested, they didn't match. Michael was cleared. With each suspect eliminated, the case grew more frustrating, more complicated. The answers were slipping further away. Then detectives turned their attention to another name, Ortavio. He had been with Heather that night. There was even a Snapchat photo showing them together, time-stamped shortly before she left the bar. When questioned, Ortavio remained calm, cooperative. He claimed he hadn't gone back to her apartment and had no involvement in anything that happened after they parted ways.
Okay, and who is Heather?
A friend of mine.
I'll show you a picture, okay? Do you have any idea when that would have been taken?
It was a little bit before we left to go to Jim's.
Who took that picture?
She took it.
Do you know if it was posted or sent to anybody?
It was on Snapchat.
Detectives applied pressure. They lied, telling him witnesses placed him at the apartment. Then they revealed something he didn't know. Heather was dead. His reaction was immediate. Shock, confusion, fear.
And not only was this girl raped, she's dead.
What? No way.
But again, fingerprints, DNA, nothing matched. Ortavio was cleared. At this point, investigators were running out of options, but one name kept resurfacing. Brandon. He didn't have a criminal record. He was a college student, someone who, on the surface, seemed completely ordinary, but he had a connection to Heather. They had been intimate before. When brought in for questioning, Brandon appeared nervous, but cooperative. He admitted to knowing her, admitted to having been to her apartment in the past. Then came the moment that changed everything. Forensic analysts had run the bloody fingerprint through the AFIS database. It was a match. The print belonged to Brandon, the same man now sitting in the interrogation room. Detectives confronted him. He denied everything. But the evidence didn't lie. The fingerprint, smeared in blood, placed him at the scene during the attack. There was no explanation that could change that.
The only way your bloody fingerprint got there is your hand's bloody. And you had your hands on her while you were raping her. So then tell me what happened.
Brandon Richmond Bowling was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and sexual assault. But what investigators uncovered next was far more disturbing than anyone expected. They searched Brandon's phone. What they found inside was horrifying. Videos, multiple recordings from June and July, weeks before the murder. In those videos, Brandon was seen entering Heather's apartment late at night, drugging her, and sexually assaulting her while she was unconscious. She had no idea. He had been violating her for months, recording it, keeping it, reliving it. Detectives realized the truth. On the night of August 6th, something changed. Heather discovered what he had been doing. She confronted him, and that confrontation turned deadly. Brandon attacked her. He struck her head. He strangled her. And according to court records, the horror didn't stop there. He admitted to giving her drugs. Her ability to resist was taken away. Her mouth was covered. Her breathing restricted. Suffocation became part of the attack. Every moment, deliberate, calculated, cruel, and he recorded it. With this new evidence, prosecutors added more charges: rape, sexual battery, crimes that had occurred long before her death. The case became even more chilling, because this wasn't a crime of passion. It was a pattern, a hidden, escalating nightmare. Facing overwhelming evidence, Brandon initially pleaded not guilty. His bond was set at $1 million, an amount he couldn't pay. He remained behind bars. As the trial approached, prosecutors prepared to present the full extent of what he had done. But before it could begin, something unexpected happened. A plea deal. After being confronted with the evidence, especially the videos, Brandon agreed to plead guilty. In March 2017, the court accepted the deal. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder and aggravated rape. The remaining charges were dropped. For Heather's family, the sentence brought a form of closure, but not peace. Nothing could undo what had been done. Nothing could bring her back. Her mother spoke about her often, about her kindness, her trust in people, her belief that there was good in everyone. That trust had been betrayed in the worst possible way. And in a moment that stunned many, after the sentencing, Heather's mother embraced Brandon's mother. Two lives shattered by the same tragedy. Two families forever changed. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a crime. It was about a life stolen, a future erased, and a truth that was hidden in plain sight until it was too late. The apartment is quiet now, empty. But what happened inside those walls still echoes. A reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters don't hide in the dark. They sit across from you, they smile, they gain your trust, and they wait. If you found this story disturbing, you're not alone. Because what officers found that day wasn't just a crime scene. It was the uncovering of something far more terrifying, a secret that should have never existed.